Hello, everyone. Good evening. Uh, we are about to get started. I just want to make a few notes up at the top. Because we are live on the internet, I just want to make sure everyone knows to keep their privacy in mind. And as long as you if you keep your camera off, then you won't appear on the live stream. All right, we will hand it over to Candace to get us started. If you're ready, Candace.
I thought that your mother was going to do her part before the candle.
Oh, okay. I thought the candle lighting was first.
No, we have the ancestral dedication.
Okay.
Okay then. Okay, got to turn. Okay, so today's first of all, welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I'm happy to see all of you, and I hope you're having a good holiday time. I feel that most of us, if not all of us, celebrated Christmas, the birth of Jesus, and this Kwanzaa celebration is an addition. So I hope that no one, I know that there are people out there who think that one substitutes for the other, but I think that both can be celebrated in their entirety. So today is the second principle of Kujichagulia. Kujichagulia is it's about self-determination, to define ourselves, name ourselves, create for ourselves, and speak for ourselves. So after reading other people's opinions and comments on what all that means, I came across a lot of things that are definitely worth thinking about. And one of the things is that it demands that as an African people, that we define, defend, and develop ourselves instead of allowing or encouraging others to do this for us. And it is a call and that makes me think of all of the people hiding behind critical race theory, trying to diminish who we are and our history as a people. It also says it is a call to recover and to speak our own special cultural truth to the world and make our own unique contribution to the forward flow of human history. And I think that is a very intense statement, because it makes us part of the world with all of our history. So just because we study about our own culture and our own history does not diminish that part of the world that we are still a part of and that we can enhance by what we bring to the table. Then I got into some really deep conversation, and there was a suggestion that each person should ask him or herself 3 basic questions. And believe me, these sound basic, but they can be pretty deep. Who am I? Am I really who I am? And am I all I ought to be? When I first read this, I said, this sounds like 6 months of therapy, okay? It can be pretty deep. But as I read on about it, what I was thinking, one article was talking about how children, we can ask ourselves these 3 questions, even as adults. We can work on that as adults, no matter what phase of life we're in. But children come across these questions also. And I was thinking that, they even need help navigating. They don't even know the questions to ask. And what this one article was pointing out was that children have imagination, freedom. They have no boundaries as to who they think they can be or what they think they can do. And then they get into the school system where all of a sudden you have one adult and 20 to 35 kids. And I know there are exceptions to the rule because I had a couple of exceptional teachers, but a lot of teachers are taught to, okay, get your kids to conform. You'll have an easier classroom if everybody does the same thing, if everybody thinks the same thing and follows the same rules, and you go into conformity. Well, what I was thinking was that the wonderment of having adults around a child, since it takes a village to raise a child, who helps the child with these questions. Who am I? And who the first question, who am I, is can be a simple question. It's like, who am I? What do I like to do? Do I like to go to outdoor concerts? What makes me happy? Who am I to serve at food banks? What makes me happy to help other people? So it's a continuous revelation to oneself of what makes me happy, what makes me tick, what do I bring to the world? And children are also trying to find this out and in their journey. The second question is, am I really who I am? A lot of us can get, especially young teenagers, can get caught up in, wearing this certain $200 pair of tennis shoes that are popular and the name brand on their jeans. And, is that really who they are, or are they just following the crowd? So, any stage of adulthood, we can ask ourselves the same thing. Are we really being true to who we really are? Or are we following the crowd and being quiet when we really object and, for the sake of peace and because our friends don't do something, then we say, okay, then maybe I won't do it either. So we have to be true to who we really are. The third question is, am I all that I ought to be? And that's also a deep question because, they turn it now into, finding your passion. Are you really all that you ought to be? Could I be more? Is there something that I really wanted to pursue that I haven't pursued because of maybe lack of confidence, or my friends didn't want to do that? So I just kind of, tucked it under and ignored it. And with these three questions, I think it comes inner confidence. And I was just thinking, I guess, in terms of the children, if we as adults paid more attention to the children and nurtured the children, those of us who are parents and some of us on here are parents and grandparents, and some of us are not parents, but we still have a village with children in it to help the children realize that, as they go through this education system with a group of other kids, they still are their own entities. They still have their own positive traits and things to give to the world. And what we have to also encourage in them is the reminder that African people introduced and developed some of the basic disciplines of human knowledge: astronomy, geometry, literature, math, medicine, ethics. That is found from the ancient times up until now. There were periods of time where it was hidden because those in power wanted to feel more than. So we were made to feel less than. But we have these strengths. We've had these for many, many years, and we need to recognize those strengths in ourselves. And and it urges us to, as a people, not to surrender our historical and cultural identity to fit into the culture of another. Openness to exchange is a given, but it presupposes that one has kept enough of one's culture to engage in exchange rather than slavishly follow another's lead. And what I see in all of that is that, you know what, now we may need to seek out knowledge about who we were and who we are. We can't expect it to be given to us. And there are so many other avenues now that are open to us that weren't before. You know, the National Museum of African American Culture and History and Culture has so much online that we can get information from and take advantage of. So even if we can't make it to DC on a regular basis for that wonderful museum, they have used the internet to bring the museum to us. And we have a responsibility to enlighten ourselves on the history and culture that we may not have grown up learning in a group situation. And just basically just think of it as filling ourselves with an African fullness and using that as a cultural anchor to ground us as well as to ground our children into understanding that that we define ourselves and we name ourselves and we create ourselves and speak for ourselves. And I think that something like that just creates a great, whole different sense of confidence in who we are, if we are really who we are, and are we who we want to become? And those questions, even though very deep, can be answered on any different levels at all ages and stages. So, so it's a very, Kujichagulia is a very deep concept, but it's also a simple concept and one that we really need to share with the generations coming before us, because we have that knowledge to impart to them. So, as we move on to the ceremony, I just like this dedication that we used yesterday, and it says, "Strive for discipline, dedication, and achievement in all you do. Dare to struggle and sacrifice and gain the strength that comes from this. Build where you are and dare to leave a legacy that will last as long as the sun shines and the water flows. Practice the principles daily." So I've used a couple examples. Can anybody else think of examples where we can enhance ourselves and define ourselves, or help a generation coming behind us define themselves using our cultural richness? Okay. I know we have a couple of teachers on here and maybe a librarian. I was just wondering if anyone would like to comment on my dedication to the younger generation, helping them answer those questions that they may not even know that they have, that that will get them thinking more independently and creatively.
Yeah, I think that this principle is really deep to me, you know, and just in my life in general. I think I've been trying to figure out where my place is in the world. And I think, you know, Kujichagulia is all about that, is figuring out where your place is and how you serve your community. and by being yourself. And I think, like you mentioned, part of that is discovering our roots and our history. And I think, for example, our Ancestor Detectives event, where we are digging into our past and discovering, looking at documentation, census records about our family members who could all read and write and who were working as farmers and as housekeepers and as other labor and doing all the things that make us who we are, that make a person who they are. And it inspires us in being who we are today, So I think that is definitely a way that we practice Kujichagulia, is by honoring our ancestors and incorporating their lessons into our modern lives.
Okay. And just like I am suggesting that we take on the generations who are coming after us, I want to also honor those ancestors who came before us. And, we exist because our ancestors used intelligence, creativity, and faith to survive. Our ancestors created families of love and hope. And we come to our ancestors humbly with grateful hearts to show that our love and appreciation for laying the path for us and guiding us in the right direction. And we thank our ancestors for protecting over us as well as our families and for interceding on our behalf in difficult times. And we appreciate your support. And we ask that you, our ancestors, continue to guide and support us as we continue to celebrate the 7 principles of Kwanzaa and endeavor to apply them to our lives and our family as we journey throughout life. So
I just want to let everyone know real quick, if you turn your mic on, you won't be shown on the stream with just your microphone. It's only if your camera's on that you'll be shown. You can have your voice, you can speak up without being on the stream. Just FYI, in case anyone's shy.
Hello, this is Jim Sherard. I'd like to just add that I think one of the things to me that's very important for our young people is, yes, that they know that history. And we as adults continue to press to have that history included in school curriculums, in the newspapers, to let young people know the capabilities of the current adults, as well as the history of our ancestors, and how under the circumstances that they endured, they were able to be positive people and achievers. And certainly when you look in the mirror, don't see something that people told you would see. Look in the mirror and see yourself, because you will realize that the things that other people have been trying to tell you aren't really true, and that much of it depends on how I feel about myself. And then when I know the history of Africans in different parts of the world, I know that the things that I am being brainwashed by, that try to dictate how inferior I am, that I realize that deep down inside of me, that's not true. That's not who I am, and I'm not going to let somebody else tell me that's who I am. I'm going to look in that mirror and say, this is who I am, and this is what I'm going to do. And I know it can be done because I have ancestors that look like me that did it. And if they did it under those circumstances, the circumstances are certainly different now, and I should be able to do what I am capable of doing. Thank you.
that's a good summary and about those 3 questions. I think you wrapped all 3 of those questions up in what you said, and that's what is very daunting, but very revealing about those three questions that I suggest we ask ourselves as we help others travel that road to recognize who they really are and where they come from.
I this is Kevin. How are you today? How's everybody? Happy holidays.
Hi, Kevin.
It's interesting your point about sort of self-determination and defining who you are. I was just having this discussion with a family member over the holidays around, what self-talk, you listen to yourself. At the end of the day, you have so many people around you, your peers, your teachers, your family. And this is a family member that's kind of struggling right now. And feeling sort of the pressure and the critique and everything of what's going on around them. But at the end of the day, a lot of them are doing it out of love. But they're pushing that away. And I try to kind of come to them and I say, well, what they're probably trying to do is give you the voice that you can reinforce within yourself. That is the most positive, growing, empowering voice to hear, because there are going to be days where you're not going to hear from any of them. And there may come a time where you won't hear from any of them at all. Maybe friends fade away, ancestors pass on, and the voice that is strongest, that helps you determine sort of who you are and what you are going to be is your own at the end of the day. And they're trying to help you find that voice by giving you that, that positive encouragement. And sometimes that can feel like it's too much and it's overbearing, but I think it's us trying to find that voice, at a young age, to try and find that your own voice inside you that gives you that right, that right self-talk that says, this is the path I want to strike out on, and these are things I'm going to do to make it, positive for me, and this is the path I'm going to follow based on my ancestors or, the role models I have around me, because you won't all, I guess. The point is, you won't always have those voices around you. You need to find that right voice within yourself that's telling you, the way to go, if you will. So that was it. I had that kind of coincidental conversation with the family member, and I think it kind of tied into that whole self-determination theme today. And plus, I just like saying the word Kujichagulia.
Yeah, I am right there with you. That's why I took this one. But anyway, yeah, that's very true, everything you said. And, and I think that, all of us on here can think of at least one instance where we allowed something else to determine whether or not we pursued something. I remember when I was, I guess it was middle school, they started a rifle team. And I joined, I don't know why, but I joined the rifle team, and I was on the team long enough for the leader of the team to let me and let my father know that, I had a good eye, and I enjoyed it. But what happened was I looked around and I saw there were no other girls and there were no other Blacks. And I started questioning, did I belong? Did I belong? Maybe this is not something I should do. And even though I was good at it, and that was confirmed, and I enjoyed it, I allowed how it looked to back me off. And, I think about that every once in a while. Not that, I would have been in the Olympics or wherever people end up who are good marksmen. But that's just a example of how young people, when not knowing what type of pressure to succumb to, can alter things, and instead of recognizing their own assets, can look around and say, okay, what are my peers saying? What are my peers doing? And okay, I like ice skating, but none of my friends ice skate, so I'm not going to ice skate. So it's like we need to help others kind of feel more comfortable in their in things, in their decisions, that to do things or to be places that feel good to them, as opposed to looking around and judging themselves by others. And that's you have to define yourself and name yourself. And I think that yeah, what you said, Kevin, is good, because it can go for other adults also. As adults, sometimes we can look back and say, I really used to enjoy that, but then I stopped doing it because such and such. Well, we all need a little bit of help and self-talk and mirror talk every once in a while. And sometimes we can get it from the people that we lean on and that we care about. So I'm hoping that you all will feel a little bit freer to have conversations with the ones you care about, who you think are still in the process of defining themselves, and help them realize the greatness from which they come. So, does anyone else have any comments? Any experiences? Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Go
This is
ahead.
Joanne. Okay, so I just read something which I thought I think it kind of brings it home. It says, and how do you pronounce it? Kujichawa? Did I say that right?
Kujichagulia.
Kujichagulia. Isn't just about you or me. It's about us, our community, and how we celebrate our culture and independence. Independently use our resources to self-determination, to self-determine our future as the founders of Kwanzaa states. And I thought that was kind of relevant, because it's not about you, it's not about me, it's not a you thing or a me thing, it's an us thing. I thought that was interesting.
Yes, that does sum it up.
Yes, it does.
It definitely does. So on that note, we're going to I'm going to switch over to Candace. Are you there, Candace?
I'm here.
I see the display. Did you want to talk about it?
Actually, I guess that's why you wanted me to speak first.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I was thinking straight into the ceremony. Actually, what I wanted to talk about is some of the items that are actually in the setup. We, of course, know the Kinara, which is symbolic of our roots, our parent people, and our continental Africans. Of the 7 candles, the black candle represents the people. The red candles represent our past, and our green ones represent the future. We have the mat, the Mecca. It's symbolic of our tradition and history, and therefore the foundation on which we build. And that is how come the Kinara goes on top of the mat. We have our unity cup, which is symbolic of the foundational principle and practice of unity, which makes all else possible. Of our crops, if there were any children present, there would be corn, because 1 ear of corn is supposed to represent each child that is present. But the crops themselves are symbolic of African harvest celebrations and of the rewards of productive and collective labor. The the kawadi, which are the gifts, which are usually of learning. And these are symbolic of the labor and love of parents and the commitments made and kept by the children. Because learning is important and we want everyone to do it. Lifelong lessons. And this is where I have problems with my pronunciation for real. It's the Nguzo Saba poster. Can't really see it real well, but it's behind the candles. And they are representative of the 7 principles, which give Kwanzaa its core and 7 days of cultural focus. We also have representative what is supposed to be a runner with the symbolic colors of the Pan-African flag, since I don't have a Pan-African flag representative. And that is everything.
Okay, thank you, Candace.
Thank you. Appreciate everything.
So I think we will close out the ceremony. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Oh, let me,
Okay, we have the last thing is the Harambes, right?
yes. So at the end of the ceremony, we recite Harambe, which means let's pull together. So the way you do it is you reach your arm up high, make a fist, and pull down every time you say Harambe. And we say it 7 times. And the goal is to say it loud enough to shake the room. So everybody ready? Harambe!
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 Harambe.
Harambe! Harambe!
Harambe.
All
That was
right.
great. That was great.
wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night, and we will see you again tomorrow.
Okay.
And if you want to catch up on any of the Kwanzaas that you've missed, you can watch them on YouTube back. We have the recordings that'll be up every day. All right. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye,
Rachel.
cousin.
Thank you, Lynette.
Bye, cousins.
Good night, family.
Goodbye.
May I ask a question before we sign off?
Oh, sure.
My son Joshua, who's a freshman at North Carolina Central, before we finish with Kwanzaa, he want to ask you some questions about the Sherard. And I told him after the event is over with, because he doesn't go to school until next week, after we do our last Kwanzaa event, can I have him then to come on and ask any questions that he may have?
About his lineage or about what
Lineage. Wait, about his lineage, because he's home for Christmas and I don't know whether he's doing something for school or what, but he's right here. Let me ask him right quick. Hey, Joshua.
Just before we get into any personal questions, I'm just going to end this so that we end the live stream. And then what I'm going to ask you to do is just join right back into this same meeting, and we won't be live.
Thank you.
And ask personal questions.
And I apologize, but thank you.
No worries. We'll just end and we'll join right back in. Okay.
Okay.
Good night, everybody.
Okay, thank you.
Good night. Thank you for
Good night.
Thank you for joining us. Hope we see
Thank
you
you.
again tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
All right. Thank you, Rachel and Lynette, and all of the other cousins.
And Candace and April. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Aunt Leota.